Welcome to the Resilience Report, where we go beyond the headlines to spotlight the trailblazers redefining sustainable business. I'm your host, Lauren Scott. In each episode, I sit down with ecopreneurs and lighthouse leaders, visionaries, who are tackling our planet's toughest challenges and proving that business can be a force for good. Thanks for joining me as we explore what's possible and what's next on the path to a more resilient future. Welcome back to our annual Best of episode of the Resilience Report. If you've been listening with us for a while, you know that we like to end every episode with the same question. What will it take for businesses and leaders to be resilient going forward? It's not an easy one, but that hasn't stopped our guests from showing up with honesty, courage, and incredibly practical insights. Releasing this episode on the very last day of 2025 feels just right. It's a moment to look back, take stock, and carry forward what really matters as we step into 2026. Most of all, this episode is a thank you to our guests and to you, our listeners. Your feedback and curiosity and commitment to positive impact have shaped the show in ways I never expected. We already have some powerful conversations lined up for the year ahead, inspired directly by your messages, and I can't wait to share what's coming next. To kick things off, this first group comes from our most popular category of the year, leaders who are rethinking the systems that literally feed the world. These conversations around food, beverage, and agriculture challenge how we grow food, how we tell its story, and how we care for the land behind it. From urban innovation to global agriculture, these guests offer perspectives that might completely change the way you see the food system. These next guests include Avi Greenstein from Bamboozled, Rebecca Tickell, the award-winning filmmaker and environmental activist, and Ron Ladner, founder of Shaggy's Restaurants.
To be resilient? Wow, that's the toughest question you've asked me, I think. To be tried and to rise to the occasion, and then continually doing so every single day. I mean, I guess that's just a definition of resilience. But I think the resilience is something that's, you could say taught, but really earned. Like, I know I earned my resilience. I didn't, I think people tried to teach it to me, but really I didn't get it until I was beaten down, essentially. And for, hard times make, strong people. And I think that right now we're living in a very difficult time. It's not comfortable, that's for sure. I mean, we are comfortable, but it's also not comfortable. And this is the moment in which we can really prove to ourselves that we can be resilient. And if companies and leaders make the decision that they're going to even try, they'll become more resilient.
I think businesses and leaders going forward need to be willing to be disruptors. Like you said, let's not just do things the way we're doing them because that's the way that they've always been done. Let's be creative. Let's figure out how to work together. Let's listen to each other. And let's figure out how to regenerate each of our communities, whether that's even within your own company. Every company can participate in this movement. Every business leader can become a leader of regeneration, no matter what your company is doing. And I guarantee you're going to end up making more of a profit that way because this is the direction that we're headed. So if you want your consumer base to be more interested, learn about regeneration because your consumers are interested in regeneration. And if they're not interested in regeneration, then that's an opportunity for you to educate them and to get them interested in regeneration. I think that we have to be willing to embrace the fact that this is a new era. And what may have worked for us 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, it's not going to work for us anymore. And if we want to stick around, we're going to have to start getting inventive and creative and looking at what our role is in this movement. And each one of us has that role to play, especially business leaders.
We tell our people this all the time, is that there's nothing we can do about yesterday. There's nothing we can do. The mistakes you make, if you learn from those mistakes, they become lessons. And the more lessons you accumulate in life, the more resilient and successful you can be. And if we can get people to just focus on now and look back on their mistakes and convert them into lessons, then going forward, you're going to be in a better position to survive and be great.
Now let's dive into energy and carbon reduction. This is honestly an area close to my heart and my professional background. These guests are tackling some of the hardest questions around emissions, data, and infrastructure, while showing us what real progress can look like when measurement meets action. This includes Miranda Gardner from iMason's Climate Accord, Catherine Atkin from Carbon Accountable, and Hassan Shariar, coming back for his second edition on the Resilience Report, from Adapter Inc.
We'll take all of us asking hard questions and leaning into hard discussions. This is not an easy space that we're in right now, no matter how you look at this, economically, politically, sustainability-wise. So for it to be, as I said before, kind of a team effort, it's a team effort on a lot of fronts. Ask the questions. Be sure that you are an engaged participant. That drives the leaders and businesses to respond to that. And the more vocal we are, the more they're going to have to engage in that resilient conversation.
I think that running a business is always challenging, right? And so, I recognize that companies have a lot on their plates. I think that, what it's going to take to be a successful business going forward is to recognize that the climate is changing. Like, just to be successful in managing that is going to require real focus and attention. And that means, getting smart, investing in the people that you need to, be those sort of stewards for you as you go on that path to both, be a robust business, but also be a sustainable business. I also think that recognizing that the consumers really want to see these, they want to see corporate leadership. I think that's only going to increase. I mean, we know we're seeing generally in society, the populace is, kind of has a jaundiced eye to business. They're not sure about what their motivations are. And I think, we can decry that or, say it's not totally fair. But the reality is that companies are much more accountable on all levels. So I think just kind of recognizing that company has a great opportunity to really get ahead of things and to be seen as a leader by showing that they care about what's happening currently for the people that they serve, but also how do we protect for the future?
Persistence. The message still stays the same. Persistence, one of the most important qualities that businesses must have. Whoever is persistent will survive, will be able to adapt.
Water. This is a space I'm still learning a lot about, and one we all need to be paying closer attention to. These following conversations highlight both the urgency of water challenges and the power of collaboration in building meaningful solutions. These guests include Tatiana Estevez from Permalution and Kendra McDonald from Canada's Ocean Supercluster.
I feel that a big reality check, which is kind of happening more and more for us, what we see in the water sector is that until people don't open the faucet and see there's no water coming out, they are not going to panic. And I can see that also at a larger scale. Yes, it's usually the governments that realize the lack of water or the scarcity or the impacts of not being resilient or sustainable. Now that we're seeing more and more clearly what that impact is and the threat also of not being resilient, we see also a lot of interest now from national security, water resiliency programs from governments and so on. Yes, unfortunately, we don't have to get to a big reality check, so we have to make the move and we can see ahead and look at the patterns that we are creating and follow what it makes good sense and good business sense, or take the path of resiliency.
So I think I'll pull again on that purpose lens. So I think staying focused on what it is that you're trying to do, at the same time being adaptable to how you do it. So we're seeing the speed of technological change. The technology or the solution that you thought you were going to bring to that problem might not be the same today as it was previously. The business model, the partnerships. So it's that balance of being open and adaptable and flexible to the change that is all around us, but at the same time staying laser focused to that purpose. And I think that combination, and back to celebrating the wins along the way is incredibly important. But I do think that that balance of not letting the change grind down and really embracing it to be able to see it as a new way to achieve that outcome is key to resilience.
What we do matters, but how we talk about it matters just as much. These episodes explore how to communicate purpose and impact with clarity, credibility, and heart, especially when dealing with complex or technical topics. We're talking about marketing and communications with our guests Marie-Chantal Savoie from Savoy Strategy and Kat Holt from Coology.
I think that what's happening right now, as I was saying, when you have a crisis, like when we had COVID, like when you have a crisis, people suddenly really focus on what matters the most. And they start really kind of owning in, what they can bring to the crisis that's ongoing or the situation that's ongoing. So as we're going through these situation with our neighbor, I think it sets a tone for leaders to say, okay, and I'll take some, Canadian organization to say, okay, what do we do in Canada? How do we come together? And we're actually seeing barriers and walls that used to be there between the province kind of coming down and people really wanting to work together versus kind of creating their own little silos. So, I believe that the more we're going to have challenges in front of us, the more leaders will come together and realize that it's coming together that's going to really allow us to really move forward faster. And so that's why I always love a good crisis. I think we need to leverage everyone that comes. They used to come every 5 or 10 years. Now they come every year. So, let's really kind of stay focused and remembering, in the end, why we're doing it. Like, I think that's another very important aspect is why am I involved in this work? Why do I want to drive the change? Why am I investing the time? And we're doing that for our people, our community, for a lasting impact. And that's why I love what I do and very, 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 very confident that these are all positive change.
I think it's going to take humility and humanity. We have to be humble enough to know that we don't always get it right. And we have to have the humanity to know that we're on this planet with all these other people and we're all connected. And that matters. And I think that if more leaders act with humanity and with humility, then we'll have an entire new generation of leaders that are going to rewrite the book on what it means to be a business leader in this interconnected global world that we live in. And I hope for that.
Next up, we dive into corporate culture and strategy. Resilience doesn't just happen by accident. It starts with how we think, lead, and make decisions. These next guests helped us to really rethink strategy, leadership, and culture from the inside out, offering tools that challenge the status quo. These incredible guests included Julia Binder and Knut Hannes, authors and IMD professors, Russell Harvey, the resilience coach himself, and John Bromley, the founder of Charitable Impact.
Wow, I can understand you asking that at the end. That's a tough one, that. But, for me, when I think about this topic, one thing that comes to mind, which is, are we able to do what we have to do before we have to? And I think the challenge to many of these things is moving before we have to. And good leaders do. Because we don't need to have all the, catastrophes and all the crises, etc., before we move in the right directions. And I think if we think about it that way, avoiding crisis by moving proactively, then I think we'll do the right thing from a business perspective as well. So that's the way I think about it. It's trying to take the long view.
For me, it might be obvious, Lauren, but I think for me, it's really those companies that manage to shift towards much more circular practices are the ones that will increase their resilience. Because if we look at what are some of the big, let's say, risks for business continuity nowadays is that I don't know where to get my resources from, or that costs go through the roof, or that there are resource shortages, right? So these are important questions when we talk about business continuity. And I think this is where circularity comes in. If I'm not just selling of every product, if I manage to keep these products and I own the materials and I see that materials and resources actually have a lot of value, and so does waste, then suddenly I can very much increase the resilience of my business by saying, how do I keep these resources much more in my hands and in cycles? And I think this is, for me, the biggest driver of resilience for the future, and those companies that manage to get that. And if you're much more an extractive business, then it's more about regeneration, right? So regenerative agriculture, regenerative mining, and so on. So how do I just have a different, let's say, relation with the resources that I use? Because I think we're coming from a place of abundance and we'll just use whatever there is. And we will enter a very different phase. And this is where we need to fundamentally rethink how we use resources.
Engage with their resilience wheel. I can't, it's just literally, it's not a one size fits all. So engage with your resilience wheel. Do it because it applies to you personally. It applies to you as a leader, it applies to a team, and it applies organizationally. So go play around with your wheel.
Wow. I mean, for me, the answer is a real belief in the mission. It enables me to persist through all sorts of headwinds of different varieties. So when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But why are you tough? Why do you choose to be tough? I guess I think it's, for me anyway, it's belief in the mission and the purpose of the company. I snarl a little bit because people are kind of, oh, well, it's so easy when you're like a charity company. Obviously, you have a mission. Like, I don't see it that way at all. Like, I mean, it's every company can and should actually have a purpose and a mission that's easy to articulate and easy for people to identify with and decide on their own whether they like it or not. And a true, authentic belief in that, I think, creates all sorts of resiliency. It certainly has for me.
This next area is, if you're a longtime listener, you know this is an area I'm very passionate about and love to have fun with, which is fashion, beauty, and design. This was actually our biggest category of the year, and for good reason. These conversations explore how design, technology, and values can reshape industries that are finally being asked to evolve. Our guests include Dr. Christian Edwards from Black & Green, Cynthia Savard from Oraki, Todd Bracher, industrial designer, Trisha Petura and Melanie Bernard from Mini Tipi, Julia Dietmar from Open Wardrobe, and Lisa Deagle from Faraday Brand.
I think to be resilient, it requires authenticity, because I think that resilience means that you can't be impacted by what they tell you you should do or what you think is right. You have to be authentic and true to what you know, because you always know. So you have to trust that inner voice inside you and be authentic and stay there and don't try to change for anyone. I think with that commitment to our authentic, real selves, resilience is inevitable.
That's a very good question. I would say that knowing problems and hard time will come, they will come. So just be prepared and always try to find a solution and be positive. Like, I think being positive, even though in the hard times, it's a great way to start. But knowing that there will always be high and low, no matter what. So just knowing that and keep forward.
Be resilient that's a good question. I think, and at least the way I think about things, is knowing and believing like your true values. And I think if you hold true to your values, I think then you live or die by it, but you at least hold true to them. And I think that to me is what keeps me resilient. And the folks that I know that are resilient are the ones that really, truly believe and hold true to their values.
I feel that in this day of age in entrepreneurship, it just really takes a lot of courage. And I feel that when you put one foot in front of the other and just continue, it makes all the difference. And just to kind of believe in yourself and keeping your why and your mission at your fingertips and understanding why you're doing it. Because, there are tough days. And that's why when you get back up, those are the learning. That's like when I read this the other day, and it was an entrepreneurship like quote or something. It's like, I failed more times than you've tried. And I thought that was interesting, because it's like true that failure is okay. Like you have to accept that failure is okay, because you learn from failure and you grow.
So the more you try, maybe you'll fail, but you'll just keep getting back up. So I think that the resiliency is in the efforts. Yeah, I just say just keep going because keep opening doors for others.
For me, what makes me resilient and makes me want to go forward every day, I think, is to see, even when it's the smallest of the change, to see it and to realize that we're not alone. A lot of people, we have a community now, and I'm sure everyone, like every entrepreneur has a community, whether it's on LinkedIn, TikTok, like whatever change they're trying to make. You start with your small community, but then that community is small and mighty. They care. And then it's like the mission gets like shared by more than just the two of us, So that makes me every day in front of challenges resilient, because I know there is like small change operating on a day-to-day, and then with the small changes at one point it's a real change that happens.
Oh gosh, it's a very good question. I'm going to repeat myself, but I think having a very clear value for why you're doing what you're doing, and this is for me being a very big source of strength and source of kind of being able to wake up in the morning and keep going. So the why, just why are we doing what we're doing? And it helps to get through hard times. And there are a lot of those when you're building your own business.
It's going to take patience and flexibility. For me, we may need to put some things on hold. We may not get to do all the things that we want right now, and we may need to prioritize certain things. And I think that's okay. We have to do that right now. But we also need to be honest and transparent about that. And any work that we're doing, we should be transparent about. But I do believe the work goes on, and especially now that in some places there's a backlash against ESG, impact sustainability. So I think we just need to work hard to keep going and continuously improving and try not to get so discouraged. And I know that's hard because I feel that every day. I think we all do working in this space. But and then I guess going back to that community and just connecting like this, connecting with you and talking about these things is so important.
And finally, a newer category for the show, but a powerful one: travel and adventure. These next two guests reminded us that protecting the world starts with experiencing it, by building deeper connections to the places we explore and the stories that we share. These guests include Marianne Iveson, the incredible podcast host, and Kristen Karstendaughter from Live Tours.
I think for the sustainability aspect, I think clients have a big responsibility in that. I think, it's like the chicken or the egg. What comes first? Do we have to change our ways to attract clients or vice versa? And like I mentioned before, it would be nice to see that clients or travelers in this case have more interest in it. Actually, when I was in university, I remember I did one of my final thesis was in sustainable logistics solution. And there I was actually looking at if the clients were the ones who were asking for these logistical solutions, or if it was the companies that were giving these green logistical solutions. And the result was that it's the company who offers them, but the clients did not really ask for them. So I think it has to be that balance and that hand in hand, of course, to offer it, but also to ask for it, to ask hard questions and being, on the toes of companies, because it's a shared interest and it's a shared responsibility for both parts.
It is tough out there right now. I know the job market is not great. Inflation, it's just out of control, which unfortunately makes me grateful for what I've built. But if you manage people, if you own a company with employees, I think more empathy is needed as we go through these tough times, right? I've worked in I would never take back my media career or radio career, but I worked in some very extremely toxic environments in media. And when your staff isn't happy, your people aren't happy, your business is going to rot from the inside. So I think empathy and authentically encouraging that stuff, not just that HR BS that's sent out, like genuinely setting a good example and like stop with the pizza parties. Like give people a day off, give people a day off and think or things they actually need and want and actually listen are my thoughts.
And that's a wrap on our Best of 2025 episode. Thank you to every single person who listened this year, and to those who continue to make space for businesses and leaders working towards positive change. By showing up, staying curious, and sharing these conversations, you're helping to move this work forward. Keep being that lighthouse. I can't wait to see what 2026 has in store for our resilience reporters. I love you all so very much, and I wish you and your loved ones a happy, healthy, and restorative holiday season. I hope that you've enjoyed this week's edition of the Resilience Report. If you would like to hear and see more, be sure to check out @The Resilience Report on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until we connect again, remember, even on the darkest of days, we all have the opportunity to be a lighthouse for others as we collectively pursue better, more resilient business.